Battle of the Challenges podcast with Vincent Cloud. And this is another episode of Production Hell. It's called Production Hell because I have a lot of, what would you say, pots going on the oven, on the stove. There's stuff on the back burner. Projects is what I'm getting at. You know, I have ideas for videos and all sorts of stuff to do with the challenge. I just never seem to get around to it, and I also just want to kind of just breeze through some shit sometimes and just talk about the challenge, so yeah, I was like, you know, because the recaps are just so like you have to stick to the code, you have to draw color within the line, so to speak, and you know, it's all shit that I, you know, that I give for myself to follow, so it's kind of ridiculous. I could do whatever I want. It's not like I'm working for a company where they're like, hey Vince, you can't say that. No, I don't have a company that's sponsoring the show, nor do I have the views to really justify like, oh my god, you're gonna lose a big number and shit if you say that. So really, it's all in my head. But ironically, this will be perhaps the biggest recap of all, because I was thinking, hey, 2020 just around the corner. Why not talk about the last 10 years? And it's crazy because that's when I started watching. Fresh Meat 2 in 2010 was my very first season ever. So let's get into it. 2010. And this is going to be, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go over shit or just like breeze by shit where you're like, whoa. I wanted you to, you know, talk about this or that more, but whatever. It is what it is. 2010 had Fresh Meat 2 and Cutthroat. I do remember, I mean, this is significant. I mean, the Fresh Meat seasons are essential, you know, like all the iconic, legendary Hall of Famers, multi-champions that we got from Fresh Meat 1, you know, it's crazy. And now we had Fresh Meat 2, and, you know, just off the top of your head, you have Cara Maria, Laurel, you know, and then just like the one and done guys like Nor and Pete, you know, like that was awesome. Those guys were great. But in general, this is the shit that I wrote down. Wes versus Kenny. That was the poster for the promotion of the season. It was all about their storyline in the trailers, in the TV spots for the challenge, and actually that's what really made it appeal to me, because I mean, I knew about the challenge, I knew about that, but I don't know, a snob, I guess is I'll just use snob. But the way the trailer was, it was just like, these two guys hate each other and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of like a movie. I like that. I want to give it a try. You know, I'm gonna give it a shot. And it was great. I remember that. I was like, wow, this is so weird. I mean, you know, there are some people that I like, but then I like the dynamic and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyways, the point is, Kenny versus Wes was so, I mean, it got me, right? The casual viewer to tune in. Well, it worked on a lot of people, this dynamic, right? So much so that Kenny and Wes were in 7-Eleven commercials. And it was, you know, it was about their rivalry with each other, you know? And it was great. I fucking loved it. I was, you know, like, I was like, oh my god, I watched this show, and you know, those two do hate each other and stuff like that. And to me, I was like, well, this is great. Like this, you know, and you don't really see that. Like you've never seen that, up until like way later. And I think that it might be the first of their kind to get a commercial just out of that. But that's great. That just means that Kenny and Wes are extremely marketable, you know? So much so that, like, holy shit, Rivals probably wouldn't have happened without this back and forth between the two. It was so fucking great. The other people that got to be in a commercial, I do recall being Bananas, Teresa, and someone else. Oh my god, it could have been, was it Jen? Fuck, I don't remember, but it was like a car commercial or something like that, and it was fine. It wasn't. I just remember. Oh my god! If you guys ever watched the commercial, check out the eyeliner that Johnny Bananas is rocking. It's so funny. It's so great. I don't know. For me personally, I recall the time when I was in the high school play, and they're like, "Okay, makeup," and I was like, "Makeup? What the fuck? Like, what? Why? I don't get it." They're like, "Well, you have to accentuate your features because you're on a stage and people are are sat in the nosebleeds and they got to see what you're doing with your facial features or whatever." I'm like, "That's fucking weird." And then they applied the makeup on me. But you just check out the guy liner Johnny's rocking. It's great. Anyways, yeah, that was great to see those guys in commercials, and I was like, man, that is fucking awesome. I will definitely tune in next season. But you know what? The trailer dropped for Cutthroat, and I was like, where the fuck is Kenny? Where the fuck is Wes? What is the point? I didn't give it the time of day. I didn't watch Cutthroat when it came out. I just completely skipped it. Years later I would watch it, and it's crazy because the only thing I have written down for Cutthroat is the Bananas backpack. This was something to behold. Like, I think this might be the most iconic elimination of all time. There's some really great ones, like the Wes versus Derek comes to mind, but just in terms of like, hey, like how Kenny and Wes's rivalry was like very marketable. This elimination, what CT does to Johnny Bananas is fucking like it breaks barriers. It brings people together. During a Thanksgiving dinner or something, when the family's talking about politics, you could be like, hey, hold on, shut up, everyone. Sorry, Grandma. I'm sorry, I said shut up. But hey, check out this elimination. And they're like, what's an elimination? I'm like, well, it's a thing that happens in the challenge. They're like, what the fuck's the challenge? I'm like, hey, I thought we didn't swear at this table. But I would put it in, and they would be like, holy shit, look at that! Like, fucking one man lifts another man on his back, and just and even the lead up where CT looks like an absolute monster on PCP. It's his animal instinct, his bloodthirst is so present on screen. You're like, this guy's horrifying, and he's got that fucking, he's got a Boston accent, but it's mostly grunts and grumbles and shit like that. And it's fucking crazy. And when it happens, it's like you didn't know a human being can do that to another human being. It's great. I will. It might be the best elimination of all time, or at least one of the best. Like I said, if you want to get people interested in the show, I would show that. And that's sort of a thing. Like, ever since I tuned in, and I'm like, oh my god, this show's fucking great. God damn, is it hard to get other people to watch? Those first three letters, MTV, they're like, what the fuck? And then you're like, oh, well, how about these letters? Letters. What are these words? Real world versus road rules. They're like, you lose them completely. Anyways, that elimination showed them that shit. And then we have to say, though, we have to mention that CT being brought in randomly to go against Johnny Bananas, because originally it was going to be Johnny Bananas versus Tyler. They fly in CT just for that moment, just to perform. And, the background is that CT was kicked off of the show and banned, all right? It was fucking banned. Like, he was going to return on the ruins, and the guys were like, fuck that. If he comes on, there's no fucking show. We don't want him around. He was going to be on the Challengers team. Wouldn't that be fucking insane? Anyways, him being brought in for just that elimination is the origins, is the birth of the idea of the mercenaries, which we'll see again later in, what is it, Vendettas or something like that. And they would bring it back some other time, like, whatever. The other thing I want to mention is that Brad finally wins. I didn't know it at the time, but holy shit, how many times did Brad get to that final and just wasn't able to sew it up? It's crazy. So I think that that's quite an accomplishment. I mean, yeah, like I said, I didn't know at the time. I was like, he's just some guy who's fucking pussy whipped by his wife. And his wife is hot, so I would be whipped as well. I don't know. Let's move on to 2011, which was Rivals 1. Brilliant fucking idea. One of the greatest. And with that comes the most views. I think this is the most solid, highly viewed season. I think Rivals 2 is is a close second. I might be wrong. I think Rivals 2 has a lot of a more viewed episode than Rivals 1 got to, but Rivals 1 was the most consistent. This is they're in the millions, which is very rare nowadays. I mean, the views are just going to go down from here. So yeah, lots of views. CT official return. I probably could have mentioned all the band shit now instead of then, but it's fine. That was last year. This is 2011. But yeah, CT comes back. But the great thing is it's a face turn. It's a term in wrestling, like WWE, where it's because before CT was more or less viewed as the bad guy, right? And he comes back and he's nice. He's with the guy he beat the shit out of, and he doesn't trust CT. The whole house doesn't trust. I mean, the guys don't trust CT. The girls are like, nah, we don't give a shit. He's hot. They don't give a fuck. And yeah, he legit turned. He was a different guy. I think he said the reason why I went murderous in the Duel 2 is because I shouldn't have been there anyways. My brother just fucking got shot in the back and died and shit like that. And so when he got there, we're not going to go into Duel 2. I was going to go deep into that. But, so yeah, CT is a good guy. And that's very noteworthy because he will basically be the good guy from now on. And this is his huge return. He's going to be very present in this oncoming decade. But we do have our first ever 2-day final. This was the birthplace in Rivals 1 in Argentina. And, it's crazy. Looking back, I just have to say that it didn't need to be. The second day was really fucking lame. It's a goddamn joke. It shouldn't have been. I think if it would have ended right when Kenny and Wes crossed the finish line, that would have been fine. But no, there's some fuckery abound, and they're like, whoa, Kenny and Wes, even though you beat them to day 2 checkpoint by 45 minutes, you're only going to get a 2-minute head start in day 2. And day 2 is going to be some random ass shit. You're just going to look for some earthquake detecting technology, and then you're going to have to try and figure it out to find the keys that are buried somewhere randomly, and then whoever finds them, whoever happens to find them, will win. It's a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy because we've had a lot of 2-day finals since then. I mean, right? Like, it's been very rare since then that we've only had 1-day finals. So I don't know. I don't think we need them at all, though, to be honest. Let's go to 2012 with Battle of the Exes. Shit, man. The only thing I've written down for this, CT gases in the Icelands, the final. And that was nuts. It looked amazing, like visually. The only thing that sucked about that is like it was so cold, you couldn't actually see the faces of the contestants. They were all just like bundled up. You could barely see their eyeballs and shit. But yeah, this was the moment where like CT, who was the good guy of Rivals 1, and this is his return, because it got eliminated in the elimination right before the final. And you were like, God damn it, if he was in that fucking final, he would have won. But it just wasn't the case. So now he finally gets there, right? And he's with his goddamn ex-DM, and their whole relationship, their strained relationship, and trying to bring it back together into not even like romantic, really, but just like two people respecting each other and shit. It was a very, very adult sort of storyline, So they're fucking, they finally united, and they're friends again, and they're running this final, and they're doing so fucking well. But CT starts to slow down. Like, DM is just fucking like amazingly fast, and CT tries to keep up, but like he's a smoker. Like, that's a big thing. He keeps smoking and shit. He wasn't smoking during the final. That would have been fucked up and a real big fuck you. But to DM, that'd be funny. That'd be funny. You're like, you got a fucking light. Anybody got a fucking light? Torch. But yeah, he fucking gasses out, and like so close to the final. Like, just, I mean, sure, they had to climb up a giant ass mound or mountain or whatever, but it was so close. And then for him to just not be able to continue, and then Johnny Bananas and Camilla, they ended up passing them and getting the win. It was devastating. Like, it was such a shocker. I don't think my mouth has ever been more like slack-jawed, I was like, holy shit. Like, what a crazy turn of events, It was really just like, man, like he was poised to win this whole thing. This would have been his season, just because, like, again, the majority of the season was about his and DM's relationship. And who knows, man, like, if they would have won, maybe they would have like, hey, let's give it one last try and stuff like that. Who knows? You always think like with Kenny and Wes, when they lost Rivals 1, they could have become friends instead of just, really, because their loss in Rivals 1 was really just like the final straw. It was just a stab in the heart and the last remaining thought of them becoming friends, and this was again with Exes 1, you're like, God damn it, who knows what would have happened if they would have won together and shit like that. And in spoilers, DM she'll never win. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's that was her. Oh my gosh, she was doing so fucking well, and it just, I don't know, I wonder if it haunts CT to this day. It's like, oh fuck. All right, 2013, Rivals 2, which was great. This was like one of my fucking favorite seasons. The only thing I've written down, though, any of substance apparently, Wes and CT versus Johnny Bananas, the argument. I just loved it. I fucking, what was missing in Rivals 1 was that all these people that hate each other had to work together, and they just formed this big alliance, and the alliance was to just get to the final and then battle it out there, right? and so there wasn't any real friction. It was all about this giant alliance versus CT and Adam, right? But in Rivals 2, it was they were made to behave once again just because of how the politics ran and the votes and shit. But as soon as they both knew that they were in the finals, this is when this huge argument came because, like, they're like, oh, Johnny Bananas, he gasses out after 2 minutes. I'm totally cool with it. Because earlier that day, that's when Bananas on that rampage mission, he's like falling down, he's thrown up, he's like, I can't breathe and shit. And Frank's like, get up, you worthless piece of shit. And yeah, Wes and CT are like, we're gonna beat you. And what made it great is all the background, because like we just talked about Rivals 1, where Bananas ended up taking the wing. He ended up taking the win from Wes. Sorry, there was just too many W's in that sentence, and I got confused. I panicked. And then you have CT immediately after that getting the shocking loss to Bananas himself, and so it's like, okay, this is insane. This fucking lead up, this built the final up so high because they were there. The final is within a couple days, and they start to fucking promote the final in a way that UFC fighters do. Like they just raised the stakes. They were talking so much shit to each other, and it's like, even Bananas is like, you fucking, like, Wes, you got carried up the mountain. CT, you died in Iceland, and fucking, oh my god, CT's like, that was the past, this is now. And it's crazy because he is right, he's like, it's a different story, like, it's like he's saying, like, I got even better since then, and what was the line? I wish I had this written verbatim so I could, say it verbatim, where Wes is like, what was it prompted from? Bananas is like, what do you got? And Wes is like, I have a big have a monster truck, something, fuck, what did he say? He said all these, like, I got a house, 30 companies, and suck my dick. God damn it, I wish I knew I should have wrote this shit down. See, this is the only thing that sucks with these production hell episodes that I do, where it's just like, I'm looking at my phone, I have just a couple words written down, and it's up to me to just kind of like, I have kind of like a Rolodex in my mind, like, okay, what happened here and shit. Had this been a proper video, I probably would have had that quote written down, but here we are. And then, like, Bananas even, like, fucking shoves Wes, and it's already just like, oh, wow, you're getting under his skin. Producers aren't going to stop this shit because they're like, this is our stars. Like, why are mommy and daddy fighting, that sort of thing. And then, also for Rivals 2, CT does indeed win, and he finally wins. CT has gotten to fucking 4 finals by this time, something like that. Let's see here. Inferno 1, Inferno 2, Gauntlet 3. Okay, so this, and then Exes 1. So now his 5th final, he finally gets the gold, and really, really fucking crazy, man. I will say this though, because following this is Free Agents, and CT comes back, and there is a change in him, like CT literally just like kind of changes, like after that win. He becomes like more humble, more of a good guy than he was. I mean, in truth, Rivals 2, he was sort of an asshole to DM. Like, he was kind of playing with her delicate heart for votes. I mean, like, you could say that could, it could be debated. It's debatable. So yeah, the fact that he finally won, like, CT is really not going to be the same again. He's going to eventually turn into dad bod pops, CT. Like, it's crazy. So let's get on to 2014 with Free Agents, and this is where the randomness of eliminations is introduced, which I was totally against. As soon as I heard it, I was like, no, this goes into flies into the face of of years and years of the challenge, and like, you know, the whole thing is like when you win a mission and you send in the person you want to go into elimination, then someone else or you also decide who that person's going to go against. But this is randomness. You're going to have like 4 or 5 people just randomly pick a card to see who they go against. And I didn't like it. I feel like it was a bad move overall because it was just a lot of people skated by that deserved to go in, you know, like instead of fucking this, for example, Johnny Riley was fucking around with Kahada's loose ass girlfriend Nani. Oh god, I hate Nani so much. But yeah, Kahada was put into elimination, right? And there was a bunch of people that had to draw the card. He should have went against Johnny Riley, but instead Johnny Riley, who had a horseshoe up his ass, he didn't go in. Instead, it was Leroy, and it was just like so fucking one-sided. I just fucking hated it. Like the whole, like fuck the randomization. I really do not care for that. The other thing I have written down for free agents, Jordan flips all the cards. You know, like that it's one of the most coolest, iconic thing that happened. One of the great moments of that season, because Jordan's like, no, fuck this random shit. Put me in there. That moment is basically what every episode of The Duel was. You know, like that was what made the duels amazing. Like the producers finally realized that and introduced it in War of the Worlds 1, only to take it out for War of the Worlds 2 the next season. But yeah, that was great. Even though Jordan probably should have waited, like because it was the climb the wall one where you have to punch through the walls and climb. He could have waited. You know, he really could have. But like this was the time when Bananas was put into elimination. So I don't know. It was a tough call, real tough call. Let's go to 2015. Oh, 2014. Back to free agents. Just to say that Bananas' 5th win, he broke the Durrell record, you know. He broke it back in Exes 1 against CT. And then Laurel finally got a win. It's so crazy, because she kept on getting second, like 3 seasons in a row. You're like, holy shit, like you just assume she had a title already. She already had a belt, you know what I'm saying? She had a trophy. But she finally wins, and that was pretty sweet. 2015 Exes 2. This is significant. Oh my gosh. The Redemption Online. It was called The Exile or whatever. It was... Oh, this was so bad. Another just big mistake that I always hated and will continue to hate. If you get eliminated, that should be it, right? But no, producers are like, what do we do now? Let's just destroy things that we're proud of and, you know, forever. Let's cut these trees down, this forest surrounding us. I don't know what I'm getting at, but anyways, you get eliminated, right? You go into the Redemption House. This was called the Exile House. But this was the thing. It started off online. So when Johnny Bananas gets eliminated early in the season, you don't see him at all, right? You just don't fucking see him. What's happening is every time someone else is eliminated, you have to go on the MTV website and watch the eliminations there. And you know, like they'll show like little bits of video of them just hanging out in the house like, I wonder who's coming down the pipe next, you know, like who are we going against? I hope we win, and gee, I wonder when we get back into the house and shit like that. Just random ass shit. I'm trying to remember. I think I did go online and I did watch those little segments and stuff, but I think what happened, I mean, come on, spoilers, we don't do that shit anymore, you know. The redemption is part of the episodes now, especially in fucking god damn it, what is it? What am I making this harder on myself? Was it Invasion? Was it Dirty 30? Oh, whatever. Oh, God damn it. Okay. So anyways, Redemption online, right? And I remember being so mad about the idea, and then I remember being so much more mad at the fact that they just dropped the idea before the end of the season. What should have happened is the winner of the Exile should show up at the very end at the final. That would have been perfect. That would have been great. A last second hiccup, twist. But instead, they brought them back, and by them I mean Bananas and Nani, before the season ended and before they were done with all the missions. So that ended up meaning that fucking Wes and Teresa did not get a second shot at redemption. And to make matters worse, actually fucking Hurricane Naya got DQ'd, so they brought Teresa in to fucking be Leroy's partner. So in essence, the only guy that didn't get a second shot was Wes, and Wes was fucking commanding that season. You know, it was so fucking annoying. It was such a, and I remember where I'm like, you know what, I don't like any of this shit. I remember that. It was one of those moments where I'm like, the producers clearly made a decision where they're backing Johnny Bananas. You know, like, I think more so than any other time, I felt like they were like, man, Johnny Bananas is the star, like our poster boy. Like, he's the guy that has to keep winning. And I don't know why. I don't understand why they, like, if he wins, he wins. That's fine. But don't push things. Don't alter things to make sure that he wins. You know, that's really bad. It's no longer a sport. It's a goddamn laughable TV show. And it makes it even harder to recommend it to people that I love. Okay. Okay, so the other thing was the introduction of Are You the One? In general, this is the introduction of having other people from other shows compete. I remember there was a lot of kickback at first, though. They were like, oh, how dare they? Like, are you the one? No, you're not the one, or something like that. I don't know. Someone made that lame-ass joke. But since then, it's like, hey, it's fine. Like, get the cast however you see fit. Whatever works, it works. You know, like, who cares? Like, I've always said, like, it doesn't matter where you're from in terms of like where your show is from. It just matters on what you do once you get there, once you get to the challenge. You know. The other thing I have to mention is this is the dawning of a lot of to be continued. It started to happen near the end of Battle of the Exes. There was maybe like four cliffhangers, quote unquote, so to speak. And I remember being very irritated about that, and that would just continue to happen. Even more so in Rivals 3, Invasion. Like, it just would keep happening, like, really bad. But this is the start. And also, you know, Fresh Meat. I started watching in 2010 with Fresh Meat 2, but it wasn't until 2015, Battle of the Exes 2, where I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to start a little podcast about this fucking show. It's been that long that I've been doing this. It's pretty cool. But I do remember when I'm recording it, I'm like, I don't like this shit. I started the podcast because I'm like, this show is amazing and people need to know and stuff like that. And then they just started to fuck up left and right. I'm like, no, this isn't the challenge. What is this? Like, you're doing the opposite of what has been established. It's like you're just going inverse, like going inside, and, you know, like, why not just look for new things to do? You know, and it's not like all the ideas have been done. You know, like, I remember thinking that Steve Austin's Redneck Island was very inventive in their shit. Structures, eliminations, like, all this stuff, like the voting processes, the finals. Like, he was coming up. I don't know if Steve Austin was Stone Cold was at the desk writing all this shit down, but I was like, this is some good shit. These are great ideas, and I think the challenge was just going like, well, okay, well, we got all this stuff that we did. Let's undo that. Let's just do the opposite of that. It's like the Last Jedi of challenges, where like we're gonna what's it called? Something about expectations, subvert, yeah. And it really was. That's how I felt. The other thing I have to say is a bit of significance in 2015, and it was really, oh god, it was really fucking. DM passed away, right? And you might not be like, well, it is sad. I mean, it is sad because like, how many bouts of cancer did she go through, and like her relationship with CT was very like not necessarily an Exes one, but I think when everyone thinks about it, it was dual one. Like that was when CT the Beast was somehow tamed by Bell. And you get to see their relationship, play out throughout the years and stuff. And but she passes away, and she comes back. Well, no, she didn't come back. She didn't come back to life or anything. God, no. I mean, when she was in Battle of the Exes 2, they actually put CT and her together again, like totally unheard of. You could be like, well, what? Yeah, I don't know how they justified it, but I remember being like, I don't mind too much. I know it's fucking weird. But that was the couple in Battle of the Exes 1, and they were a driving storyline in Rivals 2. So they put them back together. They even give them the same jerseys from Exes 1. But like DM is just like sickly, and she has to fucking leave, and they fucking show like the last shot you see of her is like she's in a gurney and she's like getting put into a medical helicopter, and it was very, I don't know why, but I felt really weird seeing that, viewing it. And I remember actually getting kind of emotional about it because you already knew that she passed away. It's not like fade to black and they're like, oh, she passed on, by the way, and that's how people learned about it. But I don't know, it was really, I was uncomfortable. It was truly sad. It was a very real thing, and I remember getting emotional. I remember watching American Sniper before I watched this episode, so I was already very like emotional. Like, oh god, like it really struck a chord, and yeah, just honestly, that last shot of her, it's just like it almost seems unnecessary. It almost seemed exploitive by the producers. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really just sat down and tried to think about it and stuff, but it did sort of seem that way. Anyways, should we move on to the next year, 2016, where we have Battle of the Bloodlines and Rivals 3. The one thing I've written about Bloodlines is like it's basically a Fresh Meat 2 cast where you have like a whole new cast equal to the amount of alumni that you have. The only difference here is that they have to be related to the alumni, which just does not work, right? I mean, there's some partners, there's some family members that you're like, oh my gosh, you guys are so adorable with each other and shit like that. But overall, the difference was Fresh Meat 2, it's people that auditioned to be in Real World, but just didn't quite get the cut. And there were people that wanted to be on this show, to be on the challenge specifically, So you had like truly physical specimens getting casted, like you had a nice wide pool of talent to draw from, and these were all future champions and future icons. Like I said, Fresh Meat 1 had Evelyn and fucking, yeah, there you go, Evelyn. and Evan. There's the people, just believe me. And then Freshmate 2, like Cara Maria, Laurel, So, I'm sure they wanted something similar with this season, but the thing is that you could only draw from the gene pool of an existing alumni. And to be honest with you, like, odds are you probably already casted the most talented of the family anyways, So already you're going to get like a B-side, like these guys are more like second string, bench warmer types, So yeah, it just didn't work. The other thing I have written down is for Rivals 3, Johnny Bananas takes the money from his partner Sarah for revenge. Or no, what does he say? He's like, oh, I don't know how many more seasons of this I got in me, so I'm gonna take the money and run. Which was like, I knew that was bullshit the second he said it. I was like, no, dude, you never fucking miss a season, and he has yet to miss a season since then. All right, Jesus Christ, just so full of shit. So he gets the money. He gets his 6th win. It's a record-breaking amount. He broke his own record. And people are like, I remember at the time, I liked it because like Rivals 3 was so lame up until that point, and especially the final. I thought the final was like so boring. So I'm like, well, let's see something happen, and so in your just in terms of drama, you're like, okay, good, he took the money, it's because it wasn't like I was a huge Sarah fan. In fact, she always kind of irritated me forever, sure, she was, she had talent and stuff, but it's not like I felt like she deserved it. Like, I sided with Sarah on that whole debate. He's like, oh, you betrayed me, you sent me into an elimination on Battle of the Exes, even though I was already eliminated. But thank God for Redemption House. Thank God for Exile Online Island, So it's like, I don't know. I didn't agree with any of what he was saying. I was like, no, like, you fucking... How many times has he said, like, you gotta do it to them before they do it to you? But the fact that it was done to him, oh my gosh, what a terrible thing to do. So, I don't know, all the fans that agreed on his side, I was like, whatever, just fucking, yeah. If you like Bananas that much, if you believe his lies, you don't want to think for yourself, go right ahead. But he is full of shit, all right? His fucking reasoning for taking it was full of shit. Like, his fake building a relationship back together with her was fake. He even cheated. He had, performance-enhancing drugs, with Adderall, basically. He took Adderall during the final. And you could see it, like, in the overnight stuff, where he was just, like, mile-a-minute chatty Cathy. While everyone else is just like, oh, God, I'm so tired. I don't know if I could do this and stuff. And I don't know. It was crazy. It was like, I don't know. I remember not liking Rivals 3 so much because I loved the first 2 Rivals so much. It was a really big dip. It was almost like the Game of Thrones season 8 of the challenge. So I don't know. I was like, okay, whatever. You took the money, and I remember being like, even the people that didn't side with him, they were like, oh, he's a fucking, like, what a terrible thing to do. But I also wanted to be like, hey, let's not forget that the producers are terrible people. All right? Why even give anyone the option? They are looking for sensational things for people to talk about at the water cooler afterwards. Like, they want that moment. Like, so fucking Johnny Bananas, being the opportunist that he is, I mean, like, anyone. Like, it was, I don't know. I was just like, the producers are assholes too. Like, Sarah, you shouldn't just be mad at Bananas. You should be mad at production. You should be mad at TJ. Wasn't TJ your husband's friend? Yeah. What the fuck? And he did nothing. He just stood there and was like, good job, bro. Bananas. let's get a drink afterwards, son. I don't know. I always felt like that whole thing, that whole season, I really despised. And for it to end that way, I was like, ugh, I guess. You're an asshole. Everyone's an asshole. People are shitty to each other. All right. Let's get into, where are we? 2000. So that was 2016. 2017, we had Invasion of the Champions and Dirty 30. The only thing I've written down here is Darrell's return. And this was significant to me because, like, Darrell was the first 4-time champion, and that record stayed there forever. And he was just, like, he was one of the best. The only thing is that he was kind of in the background all the time. You know, like, he didn't really say too much. He didn't cause drama necessarily. You know, he didn't really do any of that stuff. But what happened when he returned, he was a different guy. Like, you know, he's a family man. He was funny. He had these great lines. I remember they were like, so before he was going to go against Zach in elimination, he's like, or TJ's like, hey, so what are you guys fighting for? And Zach's like, it's pride or something like that. And, or you know, I don't remember what he said, but Darrell's like, this is for a boat. So my family and I could take some trips on the weekends. You know, every once in a while we'll take a trip. You know, like, he was just this, his reasoning, his outlook on life has changed so much that he was the opposite of what he used to be back when he was the reigning champ of 4 championships, you know? And I loved it. I fucking loved it because, for one thing, when he DQ'd in Ruins, when he got in that drunken fight with Brad, you know, he came back immediately afterwards on Fresh Meat 2. He was with Cara Maria. And he was a completely different fucking person, you know? It's almost like and I was suspicious. I was like, oh, this is just a PR stunt. Or he's like, hey, guys, it's okay. I'm not a scary guy. I could make faces and do little jokes and shit like that. And I was like, oh, I don't believe it. And then he got eliminated the first round, but he was still doing it. He was still like having fun with the camera and stuff. And, you know, and I thought he retired. He comes back, and I do remember this, though. I do have to say this. I remember he said many times, I will not come back unless it's a duel. Because he was never in Duel 1 or Duel 2, which he should have. There's a lot of people that should have been on those specific seasons. And I think production fucking lied to him. You know what I mean? Because there's been times where, like, I think Rivals 2 originally was supposed to be something. That might have even was supposed to be a duel. I don't remember, but, like, you know, they change it on him. You know, maybe one cast drops out and all of a sudden the structure, the theme doesn't work. But it's like the duel, the whole point is that there is no theme. You know, it's everyone for themselves. So it could have been like fucking, you know, anytime. It's like you have that in your back pocket. Like, just whip out a duel and it'll be fine. But I don't know. I mean, I am thankful that he came back because he was great. I loved the new Darrell. But yeah, it should have been a duel instead of this bullshit Invasion of the Champions. The other thing I have to say is, oh my gosh, this is an introduction of the Purge. It was called the Bloodbath, and that's when, you know, you just lose a bunch of people, lose a bunch of cast members, and it's so dumb. I don't like it. And I don't mean to just say, like, dumb because, like, that's the only word I could use to describe it, because I want to be able to break down just why it's so ill-advised to do. And I kind of go back to being, you know, from the production side. Like, why cast all these people just to get rid of 4 or 5 of them, you know, when you know that, you know, fucking some of these people have a great following. Like, what if you lose, like I remember Jenna got eliminated or got purged out, and I was like, you know what, that really fucking sucks, because Jenna's been in like 3 finals before this, leading up to this, something like that. Like she just keeps on getting to finals, and it was a real fucking bummer. And then I remember Hunter, was he eliminated in the in the bloodbath and the purge? I think he was too. And it just, I don't know. I don't like it. It always happens near the end. I mean, it shouldn't happen anywhere. I think I thought it was okay in Dirty 30 because it started with a bloodbath. And that's, I think, if it has to be somewhere, maybe it should be in the beginning, because it's like, well, this is preseason, tryouts. The NFL, you have people, try out for the team, So I think that's fine if you have to, but you really don't have to. It shouldn't be there, I just don't agree with any of that shit. Okay, so we have the introduction of the Purge. Oh my god, and then let's get into Dirty 30, where they fucking made reunions mandatory. And I was so angry. Because, like, the final was fine. I thought the final was kind of exciting in Dirty 30. But then they crossed the finish line, and they're gonna add all the times up. But then TJ on a phone is like, "Hey, we're not gonna tell you who won. You're gonna have to find out at the reunion." Ugh, my gosh. And then they made it worse, because I don't even like reunions to begin with. But they fucking stretched it into a 2-parter. Oh my gosh, that was terrible. It was horrible. And I think they're going to do this again for Vendettas, and thankfully they stopped doing that. Never should have did it. A lot of no-nos. But, okay, so while I'm complaining about all this shit, during 2017, under the radar, basically, was Champs versus Pros. Or, it would later become Champs versus Stars. This was so good. It was a mini series. It really shouldn't be. It should be considered canon. You got all these fucking, like, I can't even begin to mention everyone. Like CM Punk, Michelle Watterson from the UFC. Like, I never thought in a million years that UFC and the challenge would mix, like it was insane. And the fact that it was Michelle Watterson, you guys have to know, you guys have to watch her fights. She's 50-50. No, I'm just kidding. No, she's like, I fucking love the UFC. I think CM Punk, they built him as a UFC guy, but no, he's actually a wrestler, like a really good wrestler. Like, I think he's great. I think he's amazing. And people might be like, well, why did he get eliminated? Well, I mean, it's 50-50 when you go into eliminations. And I do also want to say, now that I'm just kind of going on a tangent here, that when he was going against his opponent in elimination, everyone was rooting for him. Like, the guy even brought his fucking lover to cheer him on and stuff. And it was so one-sided. And I do remember CM Punk saying, like, it's almost like you guys want him to win, I don't know. I like CM Punk. Some people, you got your haters. They're everywhere, whatever. But, okay, T.O. was there, fucking, like, and again, it doesn't matter what you did before the challenge. It's what you do on it. Like, take fucking, what was it, J-Lo's ex backup dancer? Well, not just a backup dancer, but also ex-boyfriend or whatever, ex-fiance maybe. He was amazing. What was his name? Casper. What's her name? Lolo? Was that her name? Like, she was great. Fucking, oh my god, I don't remember the names. I recall, well, who was the British chick? She was great. She was just so, like, fucking detached, robotic. Like, this is how we're going to play it, and I'm going to fuck you over and get to the finals and shit. Like, I just love that shit. Like, this was an amazing show. The host wasn't TJ. It was, oh my god, I still don't remember. fuck? Some football guy. But then later replaced with The Miz, and The Miz is amazing. He's fucking, he's a legacy on the challenge, and he's a star on WWE. It was a perfect match. And it was great. And it was a complete show. Like, when I'm talking about Bloodlines and Exes 2 and all this stuff that I've been complaining about, it's actually... It's a fucking phone going off. It's actually terrible. Like, I hate them because they're all like chopped into 2s or into 3s. Like, every episode takes so fucking long to complete. Like, it takes like 3 weeks sometimes for just one thing to be done. So the Champs versus Pros, that little trilogy was great, and I mentioned the stars. I could keep going on, but I also want to mention just like how fucking great our guys did. The champions, like fucking CT, he won 2 finals. Wes, it was his show for those 3 seasons. Like, he was so in his element. Oh my gosh, we got Emily back for a season. Her doing her shit, like her thing, like you just know as soon as she steps onto a challenge, you're like, oh my god, it was good stuff. It was wonderful, and it really helped me through some tough times. Basically, just Invasion, Dirty 30, Vendettas, Final Reckoning, where I'm like, fuck this show, bring back the stars. All right, let's get into 2018 with Vendettas and Final Reckoning. We got our first solo winner, Cara Maria. That's awesome. I mean, that's significant, right? You would think that they would show the whole fucking thing on an episode, on TV, but no, they're like, tune in and we'll show it to you at the reunion. Fuck you. Like, they didn't even show, like, they didn't even show someone finishing a final. Like, they cut it. Like, the last thing we see is Kayla, Zach, was it Kyle, and Cara Maria still doing the fucking final, and then it cuts. Like, fuck that. Fuck Bonham. Fuck Murray. All right. And I also think, and I mentioned this before in Production Hell episode 1, where, like, had they shown Cara Maria being the first solo champion ever, who knows? That might have really helped people's public opinion about her. It definitely wouldn't hurt. You know what I'm saying? They should have showed it. It sucks. Cara deserves better. The other thing I have written down is from Final Reckoning, where Zach volunteers to go into elimination. Why? Because his female partner, Amanda, she wanted to vote someone else. He wanted to vote someone else. They couldn't agree. So he's like, all right, you know what? We're going into elimination. They won the final. They were safe. This is unheard of. No one ever fucking wins the final to be safe, only to volunteer to go into elimination. And this fucking asshole, I mentioned this in the previous episode as well, he does not like women. You have to go back and see all these moments where he has no attention span for them. He has no tolerance. He has no time for these women. He gets so fucking annoyed. He treats all his ex-girlfriends like fucking dirt, unless you're still sleeping with him, which is Jenna, and then, so yeah, like, it was so bad. It was, what was it necessarily? I don't remember what they were arguing about, but it was something just so, like, who gives a fuck? But I do recall, and I think it was fucking my old co-host, Hardcore Dave. He's like, yeah, well, he okay, I don't want to give him the voice that makes him sound like an idiot, but I just give this voice to anyone who disagrees with me, basically. He's like, yeah, well, I know why, because think about it, all right? Zach in his alliance are not the same as Amanda and her alliance. Don't you get it? And to me, I'm like, listen, fucking they are partners. Amanda is friends with the Lavender Ladies, right? Which had numbers on their side. What? They're not gonna vote her in. Instead, you want Zach to side with his guys, like Bananas and Tony. Yeah, that's what it was, like Bananas and Tony and like some other guys. But it wasn't even that much. Like it was just like, who is more willing to betray you? Who is the bigger asshole here? Bananas and Tony, or all those Lavender girls who have each other's backs? Like, who is known for, like, I don't know. Zach is a fucking moron. He hates women so much that he'd rather go into elimination. And he does this, right? And the cherry on top is that he does get eliminated. He ends up actually getting his nose broken in the elimination. And before he could fight himself out of the redemption house, he's medically DQ'd. So it's like, ha, Zach, ha, motherfucker, ha. Like, you, I don't know. I've said this, I've said that I haven't cared for Zach in a long time, and I will continue to do so because he just doesn't seem to be getting any better. He's just a prick. I do remember when I was reviewing, what was this last one? War of the Worlds 2, where they're like, well, yeah, well, here's the voice again. Well, what do you mean? Like, Zach I'd never heard Zach say he hates women before. And I'm like, well, who the fuck comes out and just says it? You know, what you do is, it's subtlety, it's your actions. You know, no one just comes out and says, I hate these people. You know, like, I'm an anti-Semite. No, they do things that are anti-Semitical. Semitical? Comparing the two is not the right thing, but I'm just saying, like, no one says I hate women. You know, you wouldn't get laid then, really. You know, like, you like even Chris Brown, who beat the shit out of Rihanna, didn't say I hate women because he wants to keep getting laid some more. Did she even take him back? Anyways, I don't know. I just, the reason why I wrote that down is almost like a confirmation of things that I've always thought about Zach, where I'm like, fuck you. I know there's going to be a lot of Zach supporters out there that are going to be angry, but I don't know. I just, whatever. Fuck him. Fuck him. I didn't mean fuck them. Fuck him. Okay, let's move on here. Oh, Ashley becomes the first millionaire challenger, a millionaire champion. Why? Because she decided to take the money, not share with her partner Hunter. I remember thinking and stating in the recap of that Final Reckoning final that I don't think Ashley technically beat Hunter for the points, and B, I don't think they technically even won the final. I think it was just a bunch of fuckery, a bunch of strings getting pulled that they would get those two to win, in quotes, and then they would smudge the numbers, even though, like, I wrote all this shit down. I stated this in that recap, that Hunter got the points over Ashley. So, but they were like, no, Ashley won. And then they're like, hey, Ashley, you fucking camera whore, opportunistic piece of shit. Are you gonna keep the money? And she's like, no, fuck him. Like, he said shit about me, which is true, but they also weren't, like, at each other's throats. I mean, she would have taken it anyways. You know what I mean? So it is weird between the two, between Bananas and Ashley, who ended up fucking their partner over. Bananas saying, like, oh, I don't know how much time I got left, and then her saying, like, oh, he threatened my kin. You know what I mean? What's more realistic? I mean, you literally have proof of him saying something like, I'll fuck her family, or something. No, he didn't say. What did he say? I don't know. There was something about, like, she's a dirty slut or something like that. And he's like, oh, you can't slut shame me and shit like that, you know? I don't know. She would have taken it anyways. Again, where I'm like, fuck you, producers. You know, you guys why can't you just let shit be? You know, like, fucking what's their Joss and Sylvia won that fucking thing, but they're like, oh, that's not juicy enough, it's got to be juicy. Okay. 2019 War of the Worlds 1 and 2. The only thing I got written down is just how this was a great return to form. It was back to the basics. No more like heavy cliffhangers and to be continued. I mean, there were some near the end. It actually started to revert back to the shitty parts of the challenge seasons with twists, like too many twists towards the end, like I want to say the last fourth of the season, something like that. But until that point, it was just so good. The season, the scenario, the setting, the missions, the voting systems, the eliminations, the cast. It was another big Fresh Meat 2-like cast where you get, this is good. Most seasons should have giant fresh casts. In fact, that is what made the old seasons back in the day so good, is because no one really returned to do seasons back to back to back, like fucking you just didn't do it. People had lives, but that's what made the season so great. It was always new shit, new personalities, new a new pecking order, new politics, new moves, new ideas, new betrayals, new friendships, new allies. Like everything was new. Those old seasons are still so good compared to this because it's old shit. Real quick, I think I was okay. So this is addressing some comments on the last episode of Production Hell, where they're like, new people suck, basically. The new cast, like, why don't they cast someone who will do shit, And for me, this is the thing. You just think back to Invasion of the Champions. Remember when they had all the underdogs on that little island and you had none of the champions, And what was going on between those guys was actually really fascinating. You got to see an alliance form. You got to see leaders picked up and like step up. Like that was awesome. And then it was just kind of ruined when they brought the champions in. Because then all of a sudden you have to fight their game. It's the same. Like Bananas is going to run the same shit. It's just this. Like when you bring in CT, no one else is going to get that old man strength sort of scenario. Like look at CT in War of the Worlds 2, where like no one really confronted him on anything. They were just like, well, what he says goes in a way. So, all right, we'll just kind of listen to him. If you take CT out of the equation, someone new will become the grand poobah, where like everyone's just like, oh my god, he's earned it. Like, no one's resting on their goddamn laurels, like, so, and again, going back, like the old seasons, it was a fresh cast every fucking season, like no one really did I'm going to do every fucking season except for like Veronica and then eventually Derek. But by the time like Fresh Meat 2 came around, Fresh Meat 1 came around, that's when everyone started to just come back. So the seasons got really repetitive, So that's what I mean. I actually, if you were to just take out these household names, so to speak, and get a new cast in there, believe me, they will do some shit. It's just that you can't do your own stuff when you have all these established personalities there to do it before you could, or you know what I mean? Like, my big theory, it's not even a theory, this is my thing. There's 3 eras in the challenge, all right? You could say it's the golden age, the first 12 or so seasons, but you would call it Real World versus Road Rules. It was about 2 big teams, 2 shows battling it out, like that was cool shit. And eventually they changed it up where it's like just 2 different types of teams going at it and shit like that. And then it all changed when Road Rules got canceled. That's when they were like, oh shit, we got to just bring back, I mean, not bring back, we got to cast all these wannabe players, these fans of the challenge, and that was Fresh Meat 1. And if I already said plenty of times, like, fucking icons, future Hall of Famers came with that season. And so that happened, right? But with that was the birth of the JEK Alliance, the Johnny, Evan, Kenny, Derek Alliance, where they showed up every season together with numbers, ran the house. Like, this was the beginning of, the same cast over and over and over again, right? So eventually things got so bad, and and it's not just them, it's like other people that just kept on coming around and shit. That's when the new cast, they just weren't doing shit because they couldn't, because you have all these old players who are just doing their same old shtick. It's effective shtick, but shtick nonetheless. Say shtick one more time. And so at Free Agents, that, with the introduction of random eliminations and stuff, where I was like, this is going against the grain of everything we've seen before, that they started doing that because they realized they didn't have that new cast. They didn't have those new personalities, So instead, they had to move around the players themselves. That's why the structure got all fucked up. That's why people were forced to betray each other in, like, vendettas and stuff like that. What was the thing? Like, you draw a thing, so you're safe from elimination, so you get to choose someone else to go in. So right then and there, you got yourself a little rivalry, but you were forced to, hey, are you going to steal that money? No shit. Okay, so then there you go. Ashley stole money. Yeah, that's because producers wanted her to steal money. Okay, like, all this shit is happening because they want it to happen. Like, because the new personality, the new stars couldn't produce a personality. It's all the old personalities that are running the show constantly. So that's why we're seeing all this jumbled shit. Like, it's just a maze. It's a madhouse. And that's why it's going to be a long time before we see, War of the Worlds 1 was, again, really good because they brought in like 50% of that cast was brand new people with their own ideas and shit. So, we'll get close, but what you need to do is maybe every other season, because if you've been paying attention, there are like 2 seasons a year, right? One season you'll have all the classics in there, and then the next season, all new people, and then the next season after that, you could bring in the new people and then have them again against the old people, just keep changing it up. Old, new, like, that would be very fucking interesting. And then you could have those people go against each other, almost like the Super Bowl. You get the AFC champions against the NFC champions. Okay, so back to War of the Worlds 1 and 2. I just gotta say, War of the Worlds 1 final was fucking the great biggest final ever. It was like beyond demanding. Like, it was so vast, the desert, and it was 50 miles long, and you just appreciated everyone doing that, going through it, and it was, and then you have Turbo and Theo and Wes and Ninja and Kara, like, all those people that participated, even the ones that, like, broke down. They broke down in the biggest final of all time, so good for them. Like, producers, that was something cool, like, just War of the Worlds 1 in general was great. War of the Worlds 2, not so great. I really didn't like this last season. It was just, I don't know. It was like, hey, let's undo everything we just did previously, but like in a microcosm, oh God, now I'm exhausted. So much challenge. I do finally have to say that Turkey and UK win. I mean, Turbo from Turkey, he took gold, man. He took gold. And our two Americans, Theo and Wes, they took silver and bronze. And in War of the Worlds 2, the UK won. I mean, the UK flag was the thing that was raised, right? Even though it was just Rogan, he was the only British guy. Then you had CT and Jordan, two Americans, and then D, the Australian. But in the end, it wasn't America that fucking took, who won, technically. So, what are we going to do now, America? Maybe that's why this upcoming season is called, like, Battle for Independence or something like that. Maybe it's like, we gotta fucking win. So, anyways, hey, you know what? That was a decade in review. Thank you for listening. Let's look forward to 2020, shall we? Like, subscribe, comment. This was Battle of the Challenges podcast, Production Hell, episode 2 with Vincent Cloud.